Oh no, I hope it doesn't rain because I'm already swimming in records. Good afternoon, my fellow monks, and welcome back to another video with the Monkey Sending Sensei. And today, I am bringing you my recent vinyl hauls for January 18th, 2023. Yes, it is a brand new year. A new year has dawned upon us, and I figured I would start the very first video of the year off with my recent vinyl hauls. I have a good assortment of records from a few different genres. I'm excited to get into this to show you what I've acquired in the month of January 2023. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with an album that I recently got from Tom's Electronics. He's a few towns away from me. Now I'm not gonna lie, his assortment really wasn't too great. He had a lot of older records, some hip hop, some weird stuff. I don't know, maybe it's some weird Satan worshiping stuff too. I'm kind of a little weirded out by some of his selection, not gonna lie, but people bring in weird stuff. What can I tell you? But this album was one of the last albums I saw in his racks. I was exhausting my options. I saw this album at the very end and I was like, yeah, I gotta get this. This might be a rare pressing. And it was sealed and unopened. And he gave me $35 basically credit for that. And this record here was $35. So even trade, everyone wins, right? And that album would be the classic, somewhat debut, the debut of Steve Howe anyway, of the band Yes. And the album is Yes, the Yes album. This album came out in 1971. This is the first album to feature Steve Howe. This is really the first mainly progressive album from Yes. And one thing I love about this record in particular is that it's progressive, but it's also still a little bit of that folky hard rock that they were messing around with on their first two albums. And I think this is a great blending of that sound. In the future, Yes would go on to make Fragile and Close to the Edge, these huge, amazing, epic records. But this album is still kind of a hard rock, folky band mixing in prog elements. And you have songs on here such as Yours Is No Disgrace. Starship Trooper, excellent song, one of the first really long pieces that these guys would write. And then side two has I've Seen All Good People, one of their biggest hits. Great song. I love Adventure, a short little ditty. And Perpetual Change is this awesome, kind of spacey, progressive rock track. On this album, the band is firing on all cylinders, and it's really the start of their huge wave of excellent classic progressive rock albums, starting with this, Fragile, Close to the Edge, Tales of Topographic Oceans, and Relayer. Going for the One also is part of that whole early Yes album era. But it really starts with this album, and this is one of my personal favorite Yes albums. Moving on to my second pick. This is totally different than Yes. This is like in a totally different vein. This band is a funk rock band. These guys are the godfathers, you could say, of funk rock. And I did do a perfect Zen on this band before. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. It's kind of an older video. I'm not too proud of it, to be honest. This record is phenomenal. It's often labeled as one of the best albums of all time, especially one of the best albums of the 90s. It came out the same day as Nirvana's Nevermind, so that might give you a hint of what this album is. But this is Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, this cover, I never know. If you didn't know what the album or band was, like, how in the hell do you read this cover? This is how the words are spaced out. Red blood, hot sugar, chili sex, peppers magic. Like, that's how I read it. This album is a classic. One of the best albums of all time. It's appeared on so many lists. And this album just barely misses the mark as my favorite Chili Peppers record. As many people know, Californication is my personal favorite. But this album, to me, is a damn close second. Starting off with Power of Equality. What a great track that is. Kind of this hip-hop, funk-inspired track, very heavy on the drumming, sounds excellent. And then If You Have to Ask, this is what separates the Chili Peppers apart from other funk rock bands, in my opinion. John Frusciante's guitar work. You can just hear by the end of this song, like, he has such a Hendrix and bluesy-inspired note to his playing. At the very end of the song where he breaks into that wah-wah solo, good stuff, man. Excellent wordplay from Anthony Kiedis. Yeah, Chili Peppers lyrics are a contentious point for a lot of folks, but to me, you know, I can deal with it. Breaking the Girl. Oh, beautiful song that is. This is one of Anthony's first examples of really singing a song. He's not just being an MC. He's not just rapping about, you know, sex, magic, and whatever the hell. He's actually singing an actual song that has real meaning. This is really the first album where you hear Anthony more so as a singer and a lyricist, more so than just like this sex rapping guy, you know? Suck My Kiss, another funky, heavy song. This is a headbanger if I ever heard one. Rick Rubin's production really shines on this song. And again, the weird, twisty solo that John Frusciante does, great stuff. And then we slow things down on side 2 with I Could Have Lied. And, one of my favorite ballads of all time. It's such a great, heartfelt song. I really love the lyrics to this. I could have lied. I'm such a fool. Like, you really feel Anthony's pain on this song, and it's just a beautiful song. And again, that little wing Hendrix-inspired solo in the middle and how it slowly fades out towards the end. Beautiful stuff. I love it. And then going down the track listing a little bit, you have Righteous and the Wicked, Give It Away, one of the more popular singles on here. And then side 3, I think this is a 2-album set, by the way. This album, I was not kidding when I said this album was long. Under the Bridge, one of the biggest singles of all time, talking about Anthony's drug addiction and really trying to kick the habit, and he'd go under the bridge and, shoot up. Great imagery. I love the angelic chorus that basically finishes out the song, and it's just beautiful. And then we get back into like the heavy funk rock with Naked in the Rain and Apache Rose Peacock, which has weird lyrics I'm not even going to try to explain to get into. This album is excellent, and I actually have the 2011 version that's mixed from original analog tape. So, yeah, it is damaged, though. I will say you'll see it on the side here. It is a little bit damaged. There's some creasing on the corners, if you care about that. But the vinyl sounds excellent. It's clean. It's beautiful. Again, analog tape. This is how you should remaster a vinyl record. This is like the high watermark for me. That and Californication, which I went into my video on Californication, which I still like more than this, but this is a Stone Cold classic, and I'd recommend it for anyone who loves funk, who loves 90s music. It has a little bit for everyone. Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood Sugar Sex Magic from 1991. My next acquisition is an album that I actually talked about in one of my last videos, talking about my go-to albums. This is an album from the 60s. I'm not going to go too deep into this because I did talk about this album in that video, but this is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's a classic. I'm probably going to make a video on this album in the near future, and I'm going to put it in my Perfect Zens playlist because this album is a perfect Zen from front to back. Talking about the Beatles and their 1966 classic, Revolver. Now, what can be said about this album that I didn't say or anyone hasn't said before? This album is classic. Taxman, my favorite Beatles song. Eleanor Rigby inspired David Crosby to write songs. I'm Only Sleeping, one of John's more psychedelic tracks. It's great stuff. She Said, great way to close out side 1. Flipping it over, Good Day Sunshine. What an excellent song that is. The synth or the piano, the dung 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 dung, and the song just bursts into this sunshiny, happy, good time rock and roll. And And Your Bird Can Sing, one of the last really rockin' Beatles songs from that pop rock era. For No One. Another great McCartney ballad. Excellent stuff. One of my personal favorites. Dr. Robert, another short little pop rock ditty. I Want to Tell You, another great Harrison song. Got to Get You Into My Life, another great McCartney song. And then Tomorrow Never Knows, the song that changed 60s rock forever. It actually was featured on the show Mad Men towards the end of the first episode, I believe, where one of the main characters puts the record on the turntable and puts it on Tomorrow Never Knows, and his mind just like blown. He's like, what the hell is this? But yes, I'd highly recommend Revolver. If you have not heard this album, I would dare say it's one of the albums that you should listen to before you leave this earth because it is a masterpiece from front to back. Great album. It's the 4 Beatles, in my opinion, at their best. You could argue which Beatles album is your favorite or which is the best, but I would always argue that Revolver is their best. I think from front to back, it's just a Stone Cold classic, and I would not miss it if you are even remotely interested in getting into music. Last 3 albums that I'm going to pick here are all from the same band because I've been slowly collecting records from this band. They're one of my favorite classic rock bands, and they kind of get a lot of hate in a way for making the same album over and over again. I'm talking about AC/DC with Let There Be Rock, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black. Starting off with Let There Be Rock, this is AC/DC's third record, and their third with Bon Scott, who was their lead singer up until 1980 when he unfortunately passed. But this album, to me, is the first excellent Bon Scott era album, because the first two albums are really good as well, but they have more of a bubblegum kind of pop rock sound to them. Like, they haven't really found their sound yet. They haven't found their heaviness. They hadn't found a producer that could really make them sound excellent. And this is pre-Mutt Lange as well, but this album is really their first kind of evil, dark, almost hard rock, heavy metal album. You have songs in here like Go Down, with that heavy riff, Doggy Dog. The title track is excellent with that amazing drum beat and the guitar work. It's really heavy. Bad Boy Boogie, excellent song. And then side 2 is Problem Child. And then Overdose is kind of a slower, more darker jam. I love it. And Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, excellent. And then Whole Lotta Rosie. That's how you close out an AC/DC album. Whole Lotta Rosie is so heavy, and Bon Scott is just screaming up a storm on this song and on this whole album. His vocals are so excellent on this record. And if you're a fan of AC/DC, but you've only listened to the Brian Johnson era, I would totally give the Bon Scott era a try, because their sound hadn't fully developed until around this time. But man, there's still excellent songs and excellent melodies to be had even on this album. Going in order, I also have Highway to Hell. Now, next one would actually be Power Rage, but I do not own that one yet. I'm going to get into a rant here in a little bit, but for some reasons that I'm going to mention later, I'm kind of hesitant on getting that album. But for now, I have Highway to Hell. This is the 2003 version, the same as this one and Back in Black. But this album is like the first really big AC/DC album, and the last to feature Bon Scott on vocals before his untimely death in February of 1980. But Highway to Hell, what an intro riff that is. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na, da-da-da-da, and then the drums come in. Excellent drumming from Phil Rudd. To me, Phil Rudd is the best AC/DC drummer. He just really knows how to make great hard rock and keep the beat going. And of course, the Angus brothers are excellent on here. Malcolm holding down the riffs, and then Angus is just playing these excellent, heavy, melodic solos. And Girls Got Rhythm has that amazing beat. Actually, Girls Got Rhythm has a nice rhythm to it. Walk All Over You is a great, slow, heavy one. I love the chorus vocals, the background vocals done from Malcolm and Angus too. Touch Too Much, another heavy one. Beat Around the Bush, like that kind of twangy, heavy riff that plays throughout the chorus and the verse. Speedy, heavy, just blazing, the barn burner. And that's just side 1. And then side 2, we have Shot Down in Flames, a heavy song about getting rejected by women. Get It Hot. If You Want Blood, You've Got It, which would actually be the name of a live album they'd release. They released that, I believe, before this, or right around this time. But great live album too. And Love Hungry Man is kind of the black sheep of this album. It's very funky, kind of disco-y, but not really. It's not as disco-y as I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss, but it still has that disco influence just a little bit. I think Mutt Lange probably convinced him to do that, because like, oh hey, you gotta have a disco song on this record, even if it's like kind of rocking, but you still gotta have a semblance of disco to get anywhere. So Mutt Lange probably influenced that a little bit. And then Night Prowler. Whoo, boy, Night Prowler. This is a dark and evil song right here. This is why people say, not just the title and the cover, but like this era, starting with like Let There Be Rock, Power Rage, Highway to Hell, Back in Black, Phil's About to Rock, We Salute You, and Flick of the Switch. Like, that's like evil AC/DC, because that is exactly what this is. Night Prowler is the antithesis of that. But it is a wild ride, man. It is dark, it's slow, it's brooding. I love the riffs. And again, those background vocals. Night Prowler, I sleep in the day. I believe it's about 5 to 6 minutes. So it really has time to build, and the guitar work really gets you in that mood. It's just an excellent song to finish out an excellent album. I mean, again, it's one of those classics that you must listen to, along with the next album I'm going to show as well. That's Highway to Hell, AC/DC, 1979, one of my personal favorites. And Back in Black, 1980, it's a classic. What else I got to say about this? I actually might like this more than Highway to Hell. I don't know. I kind of bounce back and forth between these two being my favorite. it's kind of hard because it's two totally different vibes. This is the Bon Scott Morning album. He had passed on February of 1980. Angus and Malcolm, they rehearsed literally a few weeks later. They didn't want to mourn the death and wait a year, they didn't want to mourn the death of Bon Scott by just moping around and just saying, whatever, we're not going to do anything. They got a singer, Brian Johnson, from the band Geordie. And Bon Scott actually had seen him perform in the band Geordie, and he actually was impressed. So, in a weird way, Bon Scott approved of Brian Johnson being in this band. It's like a spiritual kind of thing. And I love that. And this album is amazing. Now, the track listing on the back here isn't in order, but I pretty much know the track listing by heart. You have Hell's Bells. Oh my God, what an opener that is. It's dark. It picks up where Nightcrawler leaves off perfectly. You hear dun, 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 the riff is slowly coming in. And then the ding, the bell, the rung, rung. Oh, and live, Brian Johnson bangs the Hell's Bell too. It's good stuff, man. Love this song. It's heavy, dark, it's foreboding. And Brian Johnson's vocals are just soaring. At this point, he could still really hit those high notes and soar. Nowadays, he's more of a bluesy, kind of gruffer singer. But in this time, which I love, but in this time, he was high-pitched. He was still a little growly, but he was able to just blow the hinges off with his vocals, especially on this record, man. This album has a little bit of that Bon Scott energy. It's highly debated whether Bon Scott had anything to do with this album. While I don't think he really wrote anything on this album, you can really hear his influence. I really feel like Malcolm and Angus took what they knew Bon wrote about with Brian, and they really took that and ran with it. This has Bon written all over it, even if it's just spiritually. Shoot to Thrill, that's such a Bon song, man. Giving the Dog a Bone, all just heavy, hard rock classics. But then to me, side 2 is where this album really shines. Oh no, wait a minute, I'm sorry. My favorite AC/DC song of all time closes out side 1. Let Me Put My Love Into You. Now this song, I love the riff, the lyrics, and then the chorus. Let me put my love into you, babe. Let me put my love on the line. Let me put my love into you, babe. Let me cut your cake with my knife. Oh, good shit, man. And then the soloing on here is excellent. And even the pre-chorus, don't you struggle, don't you fight. That's Back in Black and Shoot to Thrill all combined into one song. And that's just side 1, man. And then side 2, I believe it starts with You Shook Me All Night Long, which is a song that many fans will say they've heard it too much. It's overplayed. And while I can see that from that standpoint, one of my favorite songs on this record. I love it. And again, the soloing and the lyrics are just so kind of bright and sunny for an album like this. It's like a summertime song, in the 70s or in the 80s. You're just making love with your girlfriend in the back of a car to this song. It just really puts you in that car on a hill with the sunset with your girl in the summertime in the 80s. That's what I think about when I listen to this song. And I was even born that time period. But man, it puts you in that mindset. And I love Have a Drink on Me, Shake a Leg. Oh man. Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. Again, one of those songs that's not really like anything else, but it's a slow and heavy jam. And it really shows that rock and roll is never gonna die. Even if Gene Simmons says all the time that rock and roll is dead. Songs like this prove that rock and roll is never truly dead and will never die. Rock and roll ain't no riddle, man. Now before I end this whole escapade and I get canceled for awful singing, I just want to do a quick rant on all of these albums. The pressings that I currently own of all these albums are the 2003 pressings. They were done by George Marino at Sterling Sound. Now, the mastering itself is excellent. Okay, these pressings sound fantastic. The sounding is great, and they did it the right way. But the problem is with the manufacturing process of these records. Just if you buy these albums, this is like a little bit of a word of the wise. If you buy these albums, I buy them used because that way you know if they sound good or not. Message the seller on eBay or whatever, Amazon. Because this is Highway to Hell, right? Doesn't look like Highway to Hell to me. says high voltage on it. Yeah. Wrong center label. So that's strike one right there. Now, if the pressing didn't have any faults to it, I wouldn't give a shit. But unfortunately, as soon as you put this record on, Highway to Hell comes in, and again, it sounds good, but then you hear these crackles and these pops, and it's not my setup because I cleaned this record quite well, and I cleaned my stylus, so it's not that. That's for damn sure. I made sure to clean my records before I play them. For the most part, sometimes I get lazy and don't. I know, I'm getting canceled again because I don't always clean my records, but I made sure that was clean, the stylus was clean, everything was perfect. All right, that was, I did make sure to take my precautions. It's just still pops and clicks, and there's a little bit of scuffing. Nothing you can really do about that. And moving on to Let There Be Rock, same kind of deal. Outer sleeve looks beautiful. The inner sleeve has a little bit, the little inner bag it comes with has a little bit of a tear on the side, but whatever. Now with this album, at first I was like, okay, this is fine. The center label's right. Looks good. But then upon further inspection, it looks like someone shot my freaking record with a little pistol. Like you probably can't tell on camera, but there's like dents in the damn thing. Like what the hell happened there? And I was like, oh, okay. I was thinking if it doesn't affect play, then who cares? It doesn't matter. Again, first world problems, but man, go down. As soon as you hear go down, it's just get pops and clicks, man. And again, I cleaned this one. I cleaned this record, and I made sure to clean my stylus. So again, it's not me being a dumbass and not doing my due diligence. And then Back in Black, again, the sleeve, excellent shape, excellent shape. Pulling the record out, inner sleeve looks great, nothing wrong with it. Again, they got the center label right. Everything looks good, but then you look at the record. Oh my God. Oh, you can see it's like scuffed to hell on this. It's just scuffed to hell. Now, side 2 isn't as bad, but still, the scuffing is awful on this. And this is brand new. I bought all these brand new. The mixes themselves sound excellent, but just the pops and the clicks and just everything else is just awful. So, my recommendation is if you want to buy these albums, the mixes are great, but just buy a used copy from eBay or Amazon. And make sure you talk to a reputable source and ask them, does this album sound good? Is there minimal pops and clicks? Because of course with a vinyl record, you're going to get pops and clicks. It's natural. It's something that's going to happen, but not as much as you get from these albums. Especially Highway to Hell and Let There Be Rock. You get them right away. They don't mess around. At least on Hell's Bells, it's a quiet song starting off, so you're going to hear it naturally. And then once the songs kick in, the songs are excellent. That's my rant on the whole AC/DC thing. But yeah, I would just recommend buying them used from eBay or finding a reputable seller, inquiring about how they sound, making sure they're okay, and making sure the center labels on are messed up. And hopefully in the future, the factory or the warehouse won't send you a faulty vinyl, faulty products. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. That's going to do it for my vinyl haul / AC/DC rant for the day. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to give the video a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more swinging content. And don't forget that bell notification so you get notified when I upload a new video to the channel. Make sure to listen to Rush. And don't forget to keep meditating with vinyl.